And joining us right now, Mike Davis, founder and president of the Article 3 Project, is an expert on all things legal, and we're so grateful to have him on the show with us to talk about indictment number 3. Mike, thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So let me ask you the most basic question for people. I kind of feel like I have dipped my toe more into how the non-political nerds live their life. I'm on a family vacation for a week. The stuff is going down, and some of it penetrates my vacation. Indictment number 3, a lot of people go, gosh, this guy's got legal troubles going at him all over the place. What would you want those individuals who may not know the specifics about this indictment or others to know about the legal system that is pursuing Donald Trump?
This is lawfare against President Trump, unprecedented lawfare, unprecedented indictments against a former president and a future potential president. This is driven by Joe Biden himself, and I have the receipts on that on my Twitter handle that I just posted yesterday. This is absolutely driven by Joe Biden because Joe Biden fears he can't beat Trump on November 7th, 2024. So he's simply indicting him and launching this unprecedented lawfare. It started with Matthew Colangelo going from the number 3 office in the Biden Justice Department, a political appointee, joining Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, the Soros-funded DA, and resurrecting the zombie case, charging a businessman for the non-crime of settling a nuisance claim after the prior Manhattan DA, the Federal Election Commission, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, and Alvin Bragg himself rejected this legal theory. It was Matthew Colangelo from the Biden Justice Department who resurrected this. That was step 1. Step 2 was Jack Smith indicting a former president 29 months after he leaves office for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records, which is allowed by the Presidential Records Act. That's why Congress gives them the office of former president, which is very secure with office space, with staff, with security clearances. And then 31 months after Trump left office, Jack Smith again indicted Trump for the non-crime of a presidential candidate objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. It's also allowed by the First Amendment. That's separate from Fani Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia, who will almost certainly indict Trump again this month related to January 6th, and then Tiff James, the New York Attorney General, suing Trump for fraud, for the non-fraud of a businessman paying back sophisticated banks in full with interest. This is Democrat lawfare driven by President Biden, and this is all lawless.
Mike Davis with us right now, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. You can follow him on Twitter at Mr. DDMIA. I take the body of evidence that was presented against Donald Trump when he was candidate Donald Trump the first time into his presidency, Russia collusion and the idea that he was only in it for himself and his business dealings that might involve big bad guys like Vladimir Putin, and all of the body of evidence that was amassed against him. The slobbering, slithering media backed up all the story and made sure that it was front and center the entire time. They end up impeaching Donald Trump. Why? Because he was trying to dig up dirt on a political opponent. We find out after all is said and done that none of that actual Russia collusion stuff actually is true, but they've tarnished his reputation so much that people who aren't paying close attention to what is taking place right now might just think, same stuff, different day with another indictment for Donald Trump. What do you want Americans of any political walk of life to understand about the political imbalance that exists right now in our Justice Department? Is what is happening to Donald Trump, could that happen to one of us?
There's no question that this weaponization of the Justice Department started under President Obama with Eric Holder. They have politicized and weaponized the Justice Department. Jack Smith was appointed by Eric Holder as the head of the Public Integrity Section. Jack Smith brought an unprecedented indictment against former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, a likely presidential or vice presidential contender in 2016. A bogus corruption theory found him guilty, convicted him, It wasn't until several years later that the Supreme Court unanimously, 8-0, reversed Jack Smith and his bogus theory. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away. But Jack Smith didn't care. Mission accomplished because he took out a potential Republican presidential or vice presidential candidate. That's what they're doing now with President Trump. Jack Smith got banished to The Hague. He was in exile as a prosecutor in The Hague. And Joe Biden and Merrick Garland brought back this disgraced former federal prosecutor who was unanimously reversed and rebuked by the Supreme Court to take out President Trump. It is very hard to get a criminal conviction overturned by the Supreme Court. It is nearly impossible for that to happen unanimously and get rebuked in the process. Jack Smith found the way. He should be a barista at Starbucks right now, but Merrick Garland and Joe Biden brought him back to take out their leading political enemy. This is lawfare by Democrats. If they can go after Trump, they can go after all of us. We're seeing that. They didn't just go after Trump on January 6th. They went after his top aides. They went after his supporters. They're still rounding up people who trespassed and took selfies on January 6th while they let BLM and Antifa destroy our country, attack the federal courthouse on a daily basis. They're going after parents protesting at school board meetings because of the garbage that they're teaching kids in these schools, this Marxist garbage and gender ideology they're teaching kids in schools. They're going after Christians praying outside of abortion clinics while they let trans terrorists firebomb Catholic churches and go after crisis pregnancy centers. This is a politicized and weaponized justice system started under Obama and taken to a next level under Biden and Merrick Garland.
Yeah, it is definitely not just an effort against one Donald Trump. It is against the entire movement that Donald Trump has really lit a flame underneath. We're speaking with Mike Davis. He's a former chief counsel for nominations to the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary, and he's the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Is there an obvious natural conclusion that you can see to indictment 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 that will be coming for Donald Trump? Is he going to get justice, or is America going to get justice in any of these scenarios?
Well, I think Democrats are really making a mistake by how they're doing these indictments, this lawfare. They should have just stuck to the documents case in Mar-a-Lago and nothing else. And they probably could have taken out Trump, even though he's allowed to have his records under the Presidential Records Act. That was their best case. But instead, they started with Alvin Bragg's buffoonery up in Manhattan, and then Jack Smith's indictment looks watered down, and then Jack Smith did this utterly buffoon indictment of Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, and that Danny Willis is going to pile on. This is like what they did during the Kavanaugh confirmation. They couldn't just stick to Christine Blasey Ford, who was clearly not telling the truth, but she was the most credible out of the allegations. They ruled out 5 more allegations against Kavanaugh, and each one of those subsequent allegations undermined Christine Blasey Ford's. And I ran what was called the dead chicken strategy on them, where I wrapped those allegations around their necks and we confirmed Justice Kavanaugh for life. This is going to backfire what they're doing to President Trump. They are increasing his polling support. They're going to guarantee that he's back in the White House in January of 2025 after President Trump beats Biden like a drum on November 7th, 2024.
Mike Davis, before we let you go, when Donald Trump does achieve what you're suggesting he's going to achieve there, what does President Donald Trump in his second term, what is he capable to do to right the injustices in the justice system today?
Well, when I'm his acting attorney general for my 3-week reign of terror with my Trump pardon in hand, I am going to indict and fire everyone on both of my lists on day one. I'm going to give them a healthy dose of their own medicine, dead chicken strategy, so they never think about doing this ever again, because Democrats only care about power and they only respect power, and they're going to get some Mike Davis firings and indictments on day one, and then I'm going to fly around on that FBI jet for 2.5 weeks and not do a damn thing like Bill Barr did for the last 6 months of his tenure as Attorney General.
It's worth the price of admission. Mike Davis, we're grateful for you. Thanks for being on with the Annie Frey Show today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. He's the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. He is the former chief counsel for nominations in the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary. I believe he worked very closely with Senator Grassley. He is a former law clerk as well for Justice Gorsuch, and he is looking forward to 3 weeks of being a temporary attorney general. I mean, man, he's got it planned out. He does. He does have it planned out. Mike Davis, if you want to thank him for being on the Annie Frey Show or lambaste him for being on the Annie Frey Show, I'm pretty sure he can handle both. On Twitter at Mr. DDMIA. You can also follow the Article 3 Project at Article 3 Project, article3project.org.